Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air. This podcast is dedicated to the millions of family caregivers who want wellness tips and self-care solutions, who seek expert advice, and who want news about healthy aging and how to create well home design in our forever homes. I'm Sherri Snelling, a corporate gerontologist, author, and educator, a TV interviewer, host, and news commentator. I'm joining you from Southern California, where our interviews and news take us all across the country to explore the many ways to help you on your caregiving journey and to lift you up here at Caregiving Club On Air. Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air. I'm your host, Sherri Snelling. I'm a corporate gerontologist, author, and CEO of the Caregiving Club. So on this June episode, we are going to explore some themes around joy and caregiving. And for the last 8 years, Comfort Keepers has actually published an annual survey for the National Day of Joy that probes the challenges, but also the silver linings of caring for a loved one. And they've surveyed older adults, but also family caregivers to get the different perspectives of that caregiving relationship. And, as we go into June, we're also celebrating Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month. And very often in the dementia and Alzheimer's community, a lot of people feel like, can you still find joy? Can my loved one still have joyful moments? Can I find joy as a dementia caregiver? And the answer is absolutely yes. In fact, that was something that I wrote about in my second book, Me Time Monday. And that is what actually brought myself and Comfort Keepers, together about 3 years ago, where I started serving as a spokesperson for them for the National Day of Joy, as well as dementia caregiving and other topics related to caregiving and aging. And it's just been a wonderful collaboration with them. So today we're going to talk to Joni Magnus Ramsey. She is really the person who is instrumental in all the things that go on with the National Day of Joy, across the country with the Comfort Keepers affiliates and what they do at corporate and the survey and, everything that has to do with this wonderful program that we have. So with that, let's dive into this inspirational interview with Joni Magnus Ramsey of Comfort Keepers. So I am super thrilled to have our guest on this episode because we've covered this event that we're going to talk about for the last few years. And I know they've been doing it now for 8 years, but I want to welcome Joni Magnus Ramsey, who is the Senior Marketing Manager at Comfort Keepers. And she's really the person who kind of puts together all the puzzle pieces, if you will, of all of the different Comfort Keepers franchises across the country who are going to celebrate National Day of Joy on June 24th. So, Joni, welcome to Caregiving Club On Air.
Well, Sherri, thank you for having me. We are thrilled to be here, and I cannot believe that we are only 3 weeks out to our Day of Joy.
I'm sure, I know, and it probably takes a whole year to plan these things. I know how those things go, but our first question, just for fun, that we always ask all of our guests is, where are we talking to you from today?
Well, as you mentioned, Comfort Keepers, we're based out of Irvine, California, but I literally work in our Dayton, Ohio office. So I am in Southwest Ohio today.
Fantastic. All right. We love that. We like getting people from all across the country so that we can say we've talked to somebody in every single state. I think it is now.
Great.
So anyway, yeah, great state of Ohio. Well, before we dive into all of the stuff around National Day of Joy and the recent survey that you did this year, just tell our audience again what Comfort Keepers does to really support older adults and their family caregivers as they stay in their homes independently, safely, healthy, and happy-wise.
Okay. Well, Comfort Keepers, we are a leading provider of in-home care for seniors and adults in need of assistance in your home, such as personal care, companionship, activities of daily living. The goal is to keep seniors in their home where their memories and their lives have been. So as you mentioned, Sherri, we love also to keep them. It's not about just keeping people safe. It's about sharing experiences with them. Because as you know, as a gerontologist, our seniors have memories, but they also have lots of things going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the thing that maybe younger generations don't think enough about is that, you don't stop creating memories and having joyful events and
Right.
participating in things just because you're getting older. It actually becomes maybe even more important to stay, socially engaged and all of those things with family and friends and all that. And I know that's something you guys really do help to facilitate. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we
Great.
go through this. Um, but I wanted to, kind of just, you've been doing this survey now for 8 years. And I know that you survey both older adults as well as the family caregivers. Tell us a little bit about what were the top line results for this year, and was there anything maybe that surprised you or that you didn't expect?
Well, you never know what you're going to get out of a survey except true answers, right? Which is the goal. We surveyed 2,000 Americans, what we call the sandwich generation, which many of us are in that mix. Those that are caring for parents as well as aging children, to explore the personal impact caregiving has and the joy it brings to despite the struggles that and I'm saying we because I'm in there, not in the survey, but I'm in that generation that we often face. Family caregiving is often discussed through the lens of the stress and the sacrifice. But this research shows another side of the story, which is really caregiving can also be a powerful source of joy for both the caregiver and their senior parent. Gives purpose, healing, and connection across to the different generations.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to reinforce that. It's something I think that we see so often throughout a lot of studies and surveys that are done, and that is that, yeah, there's the challenges, there's the frustration, the unknowing, all the other things, the stress that can come, but there's that kind of silver lining of, I really do love doing this or giving back to my loved one.
And you know what? That's the perfect example of we talk about today's caregivers are balancing the demands of work, but you also want to be there for the people that need you the most. I have an 87-year-old father, so I totally get this comment that came out from our survey that said 80% of our respondents are juggling careers, obviously alongside family caregiving responsibilities. And 59% said that they have chosen being present for their loved ones over prioritizing their careers and their own interest. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's great because we know that family may not be around forever, right? I mean, as our parents get older, we don't want to miss those opportunities. And, there might be, I know for me, I cared for my dad, who I didn't really grow up with because my parents divorced when I was younger. And I learned so much in that caregiving of him the last 2 or 3 years that I didn't know. So you find out a lot, I think, about yourself and your family as well as, your loved one, which is so important. And I do believe, because I do a lot of work with the employers are starting to get that. They understand that, there's this identity of caregiver that has a role in the workplace as well. And how do they help support those employees? So that's a nice trend that I'm seeing out there.
Yes. That is, and that's definitely obviously comfort keepers. In our corporate world, we know how important that is to have some flexibility. When I was starting my career, it was all about your kids were young and you didn't want to miss out. Well, now it's our parents, the circle of life. We are there to try to help them and
Yeah.
understand how we can be there to help.
Yeah, which is so great. So tell me about, I know Comfort Keepers is a national, entity, if you will. You guys have franchises all over the place. Tell me what some of your franchisees are planning to celebrate the National Day of Joy, and maybe some of the fun stories that you've heard over the years.
Great. Well, it's interesting because I'm going to tap back into the survey. Everybody thinks a National Day of Joy or a celebration has to be a big, big extravaganza or an event. And the survey pointed out that joy is rooted oftentimes in the smaller things, in the everyday events and connections that we have with our senior parents, such as sharing a meal, having coffee and reminiscing, listening to music. I know my dad, I'll walk in the house and he'll start blasting a YouTube song. He says, this was your mother and I's song from our wedding. So little things like that. And our Comfort Keeper franchisees and offices realize that it doesn't have to be a big, expensive thing. It is truly about connecting people. We have a lot of offices across the United States that are doing events in parks so that their family members can come. The caregivers come, they bring the clients. Partnering with ice cream stores, coffee stores for a sweet treat, if you want to call it that, where it's combining all of the generations to be able to gather and celebrate together. One of my favorite National Day of Joy events is a senior prom. We have an office that has done a senior prom for a couple years. And to see seniors, the ladies get dressed up. There was one gentleman who wore a tux, and they have the high school band come and volunteer, and the cheerleaders volunteer. And so it's a true multi-generational community event that helps, I think, the younger generation realize you can still have fun no matter what your age is.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great message too, because again, as we get older, it's not that life declines and, all those D words, decay, disease, disability, all the things that we think about that are negative. There's still, again, a lot of opportunities for fun and happiness and all these great things. I love the senior prom thing. Hopefully, if we do it when I get older, it'll be better than my real senior prom from high school.
Well, we've had people, Sherri, say, I didn't get to go to my prom when I was 18, but now I'm going at 81. So I love that,
I love that. Yeah, that is so great. I love that too. And it is about those moments, right? One of the things I know that my mom, who is 82, I don't think she minds me divulging her age, but she's a solar ager since we lost my stepdad. And one of the things that we found fun is setting up kind of little rituals or routines. And I travel a lot for business, but what we've tried to do is once a week, we will have a meal from my childhood or her childhood. And it sounds funny, but it's stuff we don't necessarily eat anymore, like applesauce with cinnamon on it, which is now one of my favorite things. But, things when you go out to eat, you're not necessarily seeing on the menu or whatever. And it's really become fun because then it's prompted all the memories and, conversations around some of those past things we used to do.
Well, that's funny you say that, Sherri. My dad at 87, and he's a widower, he said, I want to have Swiss steak like my mom, like grandma used to make. And I'm like, Daddy, I don't know what Swiss steak is, but thank God you can Google it and try to make it for him. And he's like, yeah, but the mashed potatoes, they're not boxed. And I said, Grandma didn't use boxed potatoes. He goes, no, I did. As you kids grew up, we started using boxed potatoes. And I'm like, oh, they have to be homemade. So that's a combination of my childhood, homemade mashed potatoes, which I didn't know were boxed, and his Swiss steak. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and it's great. And we're both smiling and laughing as we're talking about this. So I think there's a lot to be said there for those small moments, that you can build. One of the things that I think is so important for the family caregivers out there who are listening to us is that sometimes there's a hesitancy to bring someone into the home who is quote unquote a stranger. I know we hear a lot of that from older adults, and they don't realize the pressure they're putting on maybe an adult daughter or son to then be the only person who's helping out. And of course, as you said, sandwich generation, juggling all these different responsibilities with work. What are some of the things that you do? Because we know that caregivers need a break, family caregivers need a break. And also having a professional from Comfort Keepers comes in, not only gives you a break and make sure that you have this confidence that your loved one's being cared for properly, but also you get somebody to talk to about what's going on. And that's something that the caregivers say they feel all alone sometimes. So having that connection is really important. Tell me what you've seen about that.
Well, it's interesting because my dad had said this for years. We don't want a stranger in our house. My mother had Alzheimer's and dad needed help because we as adult children couldn't be there all the time. We got a comfort keeper in there. And I realized what seniors fear is, I don't want a stranger in my house, is the easy response. And the adult children are like, we don't want you to think of them as a stranger. It's not a babysitter, daddy. It is somebody there to help provide some support for us as your family caregivers, but also they're professionals and they can help cultivate joyful moments and do things with you. Comfort keepers, as you know, Sherri, are elevating the human spirit, but also we talk about doing with people, not for them. So it's not a babysitter. It's truly someone that's going to enrich your lives of the clients, but also of the family caregivers. We talk about, meaningful conversations. And I remember telling my parents, it might take one or two caregivers for you to meet before you get over that fear. And we were there with them the first time a caregiver would come into their house so that they could see how we reacted with them and treated them. And it's almost an extension of your family. I look at it that way. It's somebody to help your adult children and also to help you, Dad. And it's not you're losing something, you're gaining something. You're going to gain your daughter back to be able to help chat and talk with you and have dinner instead of having to do all the tasks. Like, oh my gosh, there's laundry to be done, or oh, dad didn't take the trash out. Little things like that become tasks for you as a family member. And it changes kind of the dynamic and the relationship.
Yeah, I love that because you're so right. It gives you that time back to really be present and create those really memorable moments with your loved one when you have that extra help. As you said, you're not focused on just all those physical tasks. I think the other thing that I've seen, and full disclosure, I work with you guys as one of the spokespersons for your National Day of Joy, and I'm so honored to be tapped to help you out with that. It's always such a really happy time every year to do that. But I've attended some of your other events, and I think you said something really important, and that is that the professional caregiver who comes into the home to do all of these different quote unquote services or chores does really become a family member. I mean, I've seen it through some of the stories that you've told, some of the people I've talked to, and it's so rewarding to kind of see that extra help and that person really develop a relationship that becomes so important to the older adult and the family in general.
Well, we talk about senior isolation, and you said something earlier about caregiver isolation. If you think about it, if a family member is giving up time with their friends or their fun activities because they know they need to help mom and dad, you don't want that resentment to build. So it helps bond the relationship to parent, adult, child, and parent. And the survey even found that result too, which I found interesting. They said that what's surprising to me was that 88% noted that having a caregiver helped heal and strengthen their relationship with their aging parent, which I thought was interesting. So it helps in many, many ways.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I've seen, and this may be relating to the statistic or from your survey you just talked about, is that sometimes as adult children, we don't always see our parents. We see them through a certain lens, right? And we don't always acknowledge that maybe when something is not going as well or not, happening as normally as possible, having that other person that can say, I've noticed some things with your dad, or I think we need to think about this, really helps us as family members, I think, get past that obstacle of no, they're not going to change, everything's going to stay the same kind of thing. How do you see that a lot?
Yeah, that's a valid point. We react sometimes. My dad still thinks I'm 22. No, daddy, I'm not. I'm much, much older. And you realize that you're responding to them as the parent child. And sometimes you have to step back and go, now let's listen to what he's saying. He's not going to change. So don't respond with a thing that okay, dad, you need to do X, Y, and Z. You're not going to. So listen to him. And I sometimes have to just take a breath and go, okay, he is the way he is. How am I not going to react to push his button or him to push my button? And you have to kind of almost be neutral, if that makes sense. And that's very hard for us with our parents. But having a third party to come help and talk and realize your dad's not a pain, he's a joy. I'm like, well, who's that? Who are you talking to? Jack? You're talking to a different Jack, right? Than my Jack. But you have to look at them in a different way, to your point. And I think as we get older and being in this business, you realize people need help, and it's the circle of life. I'm like, my dad, they took care of us as babies. Now we're helping take care of them, and you do the right thing. It does take a village. I mean, how many years did we hear that with our children? It takes a village to help with your aging parents as well.
Yeah. And I found the difference, and maybe this is just my experience, but my mom is a little bit more open to having me help, having me be there, whatever. My dad and my stepdad, who I both helped care for, they, because they were the authority figures, right, for all these years, they're they have a tough time saying, okay, now my adult child's going to tell me what to do, or they're going to bring things to me. So in a way, having a professional caregiver helps, get past that stumbling block for them, where now they're hearing it from a different authority, somebody who actually is a professional is telling them they should do this, not their daughter who, listen,
Well,
right?
if the doctor tells dad the same thing I told him 3 weeks ago, he suddenly hears it. You're exactly right.
Exactly.
That third party helps tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all the family
It
dynamics
is. It
of
is.
aging. Well, this is so delightful. It's so wonderful to talk to you. And I'm just going to check my notes, but is there
Okay.
anything that we didn't touch upon that you feel is important for our listeners to know about comfort keepers or just about home care in general?
Well, I will obviously say visit comfortkeepers.com. Finding the right caregiver, finding the right people to help you is so important. So our offices all over the United States, Canada, our goal is to make sure that we take the time to get to know both our client and the decision maker, which is the adult daughter. And in-home care, you are trusting your parents, your loved ones to someone. So take the time to get to know the people. Our client care coordinators that come and do the in-home assessments, I recommend you be there with them. You get to know and you talk, because what you see, your mom and dad are going to go, yes, yes, yes. You might say, no, 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 that's not what's going on, to your point, about what they do and say is very different than what they tell us sometimes. So I'm all my friends have called me for years. I'm like, please call Comfort Keepers, but know that it takes time, guys. And it's a personality match. We've had 30 years of friendship. So that's how long it's taken us to figure each other out. You're not going to find the perfect caregiver right at the first time, unless you're
Yeah.
super lucky. But
Yeah.
be patient. And there's nothing wrong with, as adult children, saying, I need help, guys, and take the time, and your parents are worth it at the end of the day. I mean, I'm all about, where are your memories? They are in your home with your pictures, your memories, everything's there. We have comfort keepers that go to assisted living facilities whose clients they used to take care of in their home. They still take care of them, but now in a assisted living facility, because the adult children made that recommendation or thought that was so important from a safety standpoint. But I know you can keep seniors in their homes safely and more engaged. That's the key. Our caregivers engage and work with them, not just for them, if that helps.
Yeah, and our homes are our sanctuaries.
They
It's
are.
really hard to try to replicate that somewhere else where
Yeah.
you got a whole bunch of other people, living around you and all that
Yes.
kind of stuff. I think the other thing too that's important for the audience to know is that caregiving is a marathon, not a sprint, typically. I
Exactly.
mean, it's not over in just a few weeks. It can go on
Right.
for years. And typically, I think the needs start to escalate as our loved ones get older. So there will be changes in that journey that, again, a professional caregiver can help you identify or help you navigate around. Whereas for us, as juggling careers, jobs, kids, everything else, it becomes really hard to understand that change and know what to do. So,
And the communication in the relationship. Comfort keepers, our comfort keeper, we can get daily reports if we want to, or weekly post visit, reports and updates. And they notice things that, to your point, we might not, because we're not there helping with lunch and dinner. We're only there maybe for breakfast on Saturday, and we go out to a
right.
restaurant. But that socialization is what I really think helps, that people don't realize. The other
Yeah.
thing is, pick up the phone and call your parents. Say hi, even if it's for 2 minutes, just so they know
Yeah.
you're thinking about them. because
Yeah.
we don't all live in the same town as some of our family members. So that communication is so important. And I always think I'm bugging my dad, and he's like, no. And it'll be a 2-3 minute conversation. He's like, thanks for calling. I love you. And you're like, okay. So that makes both of us feel good.
Well, and you're so right. I mean, you guys are a lifeline for the long distance caregivers who aren't there on a daily basis, right?
Right.
You're kind of serving that role, and you can help facilitate. I mean, I know that, particularly when we went through the pandemic, a
Mhm.
lot of professional caregivers were helping older loved ones get on Zoom because they didn't know how to do it, to even have a Zoom call with a family member or whatever.
Correct.
So, you can help with a lot of those things as well. Well, this has just been, it's always so great to talk to you. As I said, we love having you guys on. We want to just say National Day of Joy, June 24th. However, to your point, National Day of Joy can be every day.
Every day can be a party. Big or
Every day
small or
can be a
little, but
party.
just celebrate every day and celebrate the time that you have with your parents because, as you said, Sherri, they're not always here. So I think it's so important that we spend that time with them. And even in small increments, a 2-minute phone call makes a difference. And comfort keepers can help bridge those relationships as we've learned and understand. So Day of Joy, June 24th. Look for us on social media. You will see us everywhere and also on our website. So it's always a pleasure to see your smiling face. You know that.
Oh, you too. So just one more time, comfortkeepers.com, correct? That's where they go to find out all of these things.
Comfortkeepers.com.
Okay.
You can find out about National Day of Joy. We have a whole page dedicated to that. You can also find out the local office in your area that can help you with Comfort Keepers needs.
Great. Well, Joni, it's just been a joy having you on the podcast, and I love working with you and the team and everybody. So thank you so much.
Sherri, we appreciate you so much. Thank you. Have a great June 24th yourself.
You too. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. A reminder, you can find more information in my book on caregiving, healthy aging, brain health, and how wellness is built on balance. Check out Me Time Monday, the weekly wellness plan to find balance and joy for a busy life, or visit MeTimeMonday.com or CaregivingClub.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Caregiving Club On Air. Please hit the subscribe button to listen to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, SiriusXM, iHeartRadio, Pandora, as well as other listening channels. And subscribe to our Caregiving Club YouTube channel to watch the podcast and find all of our other educational caregiving content. Remember to check out the resources and article links for this episode on our episode guide page, caregivingclub.com. Just hit the podcast tab. And email us with any comments or questions at podcast@caregivingclub.com. Thank you again for listening and watching. Take care and stay well.